It's all about size.
Well, the mech fantasy is ultimately being the biggest kid on the playground with the biggest stick.
MechAssault is about piloting these huge, just rockin' robots. They're about 40 feet to maybe 90 feet tall. They weigh anywhere from 35 to 100 tons.
It's all about firepower.
You unleash one of the weapons, buildings collapse and tanks blow up.
This is a 30-foot chunk of metal that you've just taken apart. Things are gonna blow up.
And it's all about creating a sequel to one of the biggest Xbox Live games of all time.
I think it was the first time a mech action game was done on the console. Done right.
It's the ultimate sandbox for a kid who wants to stomp and shoot and destroy.
This is the making of MechAssault 2, Lone Wolf.
Oh, that hurt. Double whammy.
It's 1984. A Chicago-based company called FOSSA releases a new pen-and-paper role-playing game and creates a legend.
The guy that created BattleTech was a gentleman by the name of Jordan Weissman, an incredibly creative guy.
The BattleTech line sells 150,000 copies in 1986. That same year, FOSSA expands with the Mech Warrior line of strategy games.
The Mech Warrior universe is a universe that's filled with conflict. It's a galaxy-spanning conflict across hundreds of worlds where the primary means of fighting that conflict is these giant mechanized armored units called mechs, piloted by mech warriors. It's that combat between these mech warriors piloting these vehicles that really sort of embodies a lot of what the universe is about.
It's not long before the BattleTech universe enters the video game arena.
Several games, Mech Warrior 1 through 4, that have been released on the PC, primarily focus on the simulation aspects of driving the robots. You know, they're pretty true, much like if you could imagine simulating driving a tank.
FOSSA Studios obviously coming out the PC history of working on sort of the mech games. It did so many things so well that it became a huge, huge hit on PC.
In 1998, Microsoft acquires FOSSA.
We developed Mech Commander
Command interface initiated
at FOSSA Interactive and had some success with that. We started to look at other distribution options, and Microsoft was one of those. And one thing led to another, and they made an offer to buy the company. And they moved everybody from Chicago to Redmond, but I couldn't go.
Instead of joining FOSSA in Seattle, Denny Thorley decides to try something new.
We had this idea for this action-oriented BattleTech game, and Microsoft was coming out with the Xbox. It was a gleam in their eye at that time. They knew they needed some console-oriented stuff. They said, well, if you could put together a team, you know, we might be interested in pursuing that. We put some money together and created Day One Studios in 2001.
We had just announced that we were going to be pursuing the Xbox platform, and Denny came to me and suggested that Day One Studios would be an interesting company to work on a BattleTech game built exclusively for the Xbox platform.
When we first pitched the game, we did this kind of a cinema thing that wasn't interactive at all, but it was something that the marketing people and the salespeople could really, you know, glob onto.
It seemed like an interesting opportunity, and we said, great, let's go. And that was sort of the genesis of MechAssault 1.
Microsoft releases MechAssault for the Xbox on November 12th, 2002.
The things that were great about MechAssault 1, I think, were its accessibility. It was easy for people to get into. When they would start up the game, they understood immediately, you know, what this game was about and what to do.
Shooting an alien in a first-person shooter, you know, alien, purple blood, died, done. This is a 30-foot chunk of metal that you've just taken apart. Things are gonna blow up. There's fire, and there's whistles and explosions, and the sound goes off, and there's just a real sort of, real powerful moment of destruction. That's what gamers love.
Looks like your lucky day, Tiger.
MechAssault is about piloting these huge, just rockin' robots, 40 feet to maybe 90 feet tall. They weigh anywhere from 35 to 100 tons, and they've just got massive amount of armament. And the game reinforces just how powerful these mechs are. The weapons, when you unleash one of the weapons, buildings collapse and tanks blow up.
Xbox Live was really important to MechAssault, and MechAssault was really important to Xbox Live. MechAssault was probably the first to help establish itself as a really strong draw for people to come to Xbox Live.
The multiplayer aspect of being able to go online and do all of those things that you could do in single player, but do them again to your friends or with your friends in multiplayer, I think was really exciting for people, and it was something that you really weren't able to do on consoles prior to that.
We've got company.
I think MechAssault was a great Xbox game and sold very, very well.
I think it was the first time a mech action game was done on the console and done right.
1 year after its release, MechAssault becomes part of the Xbox Platinum lineup and wins GameSpot's Xbox Game of the Year award. Work immediately begins on the sequel. Now, Day One Studios faces the challenge of topping themselves.
Step on them.
Day One Studios creates a smash hit in 2002 with MechAssault for the Xbox. But now they must make a sequel that surpasses the original.
This is the main character in the game. We kind of call him Wolf for short because he's the last of the Wolf Dragoons, so hence Lone Wolf.
The name of their new game is MechAssault 2, Lone Wolf.
This right here is what we call our ultimate screenshot. This is the original vision we had for the game. This is the image in my head as I saw how the game was going to be played.
I think the goals for MechAssault 2 were take all the things that people had loved about MechAssault 1 and really blow them up into much sort of more grander explosions and buildings and so forth. One of the things that we wanted to do with MechAssault 2 was give people more of a flavor of sort of the BattleTech, the MechAssault universe.
One of the biggest changes the team makes with MechAssault 2 will give players a whole new view of the battlefield.
So this is the tool we use for putting in everything that goes into the game. Putting in all of the vehicles and the environments that you'll interact with. And eventually, you get something like this. And also putting in the AI and which direction they come at you from. It's really easy. Just drag it in, and there you go. And it's pretty cool.
Something I've always wanted to do was get out of the mech and be able to see these giant behemoths, running around. One of the problems with all the mech games is you were always in a perspective of a battle mech. So it was always hard to reinforce scale because you start out, you're 40 feet in the air. You see the whole world from that perspective, and it didn't really change up. You took a shorter mech or a taller mech, but it was hard to always impose that sense of scale.
You'll actually be required to get out of the mech. And when you see the mech walk by and you're at human scale, it's unbelievable. You cannot believe how big these things are.
I kept having to say, trust me, trust me. In the beginning, it was like, why would I want to be this little ant? When I could be a mech, why would I do this? I'm like, trust me, it's going to be fun.
When you're thrown out of your mech, you're now running around a mech's battlefield and you're not in a mech. Well, that's going to be pretty terrifying.
They're just going to be in awe.
Taking players out of their mechs also opens doors to new gameplay elements.
You are not the mech, you are a pilot. So what kind of things grew out of that? Okay, if I was a pilot on a battlefield and I've been driving mechs for years, what other things might I want to drive, and in what situations would I want to drive them? What kind of actions are out there that just seem pretty cool?
We added tanks and turrets and flying vehicles that you could also get into and gave them their own special, unique abilities.
So we had this little suit that could sneak and go places that the bigger mechs can't go.
With the battle armor, you're kind of hiding behind buildings' walls. Come out, it's got a lob weapon that you can hide behind things and lob stuff over.
has the power claw, which lets him jump and climb and attach to walls and just do a lot of super heroic things like that. His jump jets let him get up in the air and fly around. He has his mortar, which lets him kind of rain in death from afar over ridges and kind of sneak along.
The other thing the battle armor can do is it can jack mechs, so it can jump on the back of a mech and hack into it. And you'll get a sequence of code that comes up that you have to enter, and so does the person in the mech that's trying to fight you off. And whoever wins, if the battle armor wins, it ejects the pilot that's in the mech, and then you can take over the mech, and it's yours.
We aren't just adding vehicles for vehicles' sake. We want all these things to work together on the battlefield and give a real sense of combined arms fighting. So the battle armor can attach to the bottom of the VTOL.
And the VTOL can fly him, so you can get him to places you normally couldn't get.
The VTOLs can fly that battle armor across the field much faster.
And also upgrades his laser weapon to being super powerful when they're working together.
And together, those two units make a much more powerful unit than those would separately.
And what we're seeing is just a much broader game experience from it.
So it was just, expanding the universe, giving you more things to do, getting you out of the mech, and making you the star of the game, as opposed to the mech being the star of the game.
While Day One Studios expands on the gameplay of MechAssault 2, they must also create a new storyline that stays true to the BattleTech universe.
You sure we don't have time for another drink?
It's 2003, and Day One Studios is taking the gameplay of MechAssault 2 Lone Wolf to new levels. Now they must craft a storyline that will engage players and stay true to the world of BattleTech.
There are lots of people who, over the years, have become very familiar with the BattleTech universe. We want to make sure that we pay homage to the things that they've come to know and love about the universe, but at the same time, bring them an experience that's also a little bit new and a little bit different.
The story of MechAssault 2 it picks up off of MechAssault 1. You definitely don't have to play MechAssault 1 to know anything about MechAssault 2, but for the people that did, we wanted to harken back to the original characters that were in your crew.
Well, all your cohorts from the first game are brought forward into this story. You have Major Natalia is still running the tactical operations.
Who's kind of the woman who tells you what to do all the time.
We need a jump point out of this system. I don't care how you do it. Just get us there in one piece.
She gives you the overview of what's going on the battlefield.
It's a trick. Open fire.
They're onto us. Don't hold back. Let them have
it. This is our operations officer, Foster.
Lieutenant Foster.
Lieutenant Foster still tunes your rides.
But the battle armor isn't ready for this. It could fry him.
No choice. We're using the battle armor.
And gets all the salvage in that you collect on the battlefield and makes it into fighting vehicles for you to use.
Foster's kind of a dorky tech guy that he develops some great technology for you and occasionally blows it.
We have problems. I'm reading a scout mech.
Big time.
Not good. Limit the commentary, Foster.
We have the pilot, which is the player character.
So the three of you defeated the Word of Blake in MechAssault 1, and you're kind of hiding out on a planet trying to figure out what to do with this data core that you captured in the final mission of MechAssault 1.
We're introducing some new characters.
There's Alara. She's kind of mysterious.
You get to know the characters more because you're seeing them up close and personal.
Suddenly, surprise, there's an invasion.
Wherever we go, everything blows up.
The story sets off trying to figure out who's invading.
Sir! Who are these guys? What do they want?
Turns out that there's more than just the one data core that you captured.
Bottom line, who are the hostile forces, and why did they care enough to shoot you down? I couldn't tell you.
So you're traveling from planet to planet, following these invasions that are going on, trying to pick up the other cores, figure out what technologies they have.
So instead of going back to a mission, you're kind of continuing a storyline, and the characters continue and travel with you.
You go up against the ultimate villain, and there's betrayal.
Alira, any explanation for this snafu?
No. Pirate jumps are tricky things.
All that kind of soap opera stuff in there.
Enhanced graphics will put players into the world of MechAssault like never before.
We are absolutely committed to making sure that our products are better than the state of the art.
The main character needed to be heroic, but he couldn't look like anybody specifically. The way I chose to kind of deal with that mostly was not show his eyes. I mean, he kind of has this visor that hides his eyes. I could push and pull him and basically sculpt in the computer.
Here we have Lieutenant Foster, and we see his geometry, his model here. By moving these different control points on the rig, you can see that we can go ahead and pose our character. And you can see the character move around. And we can also test out his animations.
One of the other things that we were able to do is get you from one planet to the next with these jump ships. So each planet has a look to itself and then the regions within that planet.
BattleTech for the longest time has been a universe in decline and of lost technologies and very, very gritty and dark. I wanted to take you to new futuristic cities and places you hadn't seen before.
There's city environments that have the techno-future look to it that you might expect from a high-tech society.
We kind of went for the machine oil kind of look. Everything's still metal or heavy metal. It's very slick and very futuristic.
And the mechs get a facelift.
We have a lot of the classic mechs from the previous MechAssault 1 title brought forward to this one. They've all gotten a lot of technical updates and artistic improvement. We've also added some new weapons and have some new defensive systems that will come into play.
The mechs themselves take up about 25% more RAM than they did in MechAssault 1, and that's giving you better graphics, better lighting techniques, better special effects. MechAssault 2 takes it way further. You can almost play the game without the HUD because the visuals in the game are giving you so much input in terms of, the status of the mech.
All the improvements found in MechAssault 2 aren't limited to the single-player game. Day One Studios is putting just as much effort on multiplayer.
You're dead.
Day One Studios is set on making MechAssault 2 better in every way. That means creating a multiplayer experience that surpasses the award-winning gameplay of the original.
Engagement begins.
You guys ready to lose?
We wanted to expand the difference in terms of the beginning player skills up to an expert player skills.
Why are you shooting me, pal? I'm on your team. Let's go.
And introduce more tactics in the game.
The VTOL becomes the utility player who's bringing power up, salvage, and assisting everyone on his team who's out there, but he's very fragile, so he has to be protected by his teammates while he's doing delivery runs, bringing tanks or VTOLs to the front and equipment and salvage for the mechs.
Well, the VTOL can pick up and move a tank to an area the tank couldn't get to. So all these dynamics in the vehicle interaction, of course the battle armor interacting with the mechs and stealing mechs, provided a whole new level of tactics in the game.
Take me to the flag, guys. Let's go.
Blue flag stolen.
Also just giving the kind of Achilles heels to the mech, the battle armor can actually get up on a mech and neurohack him. So if he sneaks into place and gets up there and uses the power claw to attach onto his back, that mech's going to be literally in a fight for his life as the battle armor is trying to hack his system and eject the pilot out of the cockpit, and the pilot is trying to buck the battle armor off and keep him from doing that.
Okay, VTOL, hang on, I'm getting the battle armor. Let's go jack somebody. I want their assault class mech.
I think that the involvement on the battlefield is the real key. Yeah. We're going to see some fun with, hijacking mechs is going to create just tremendous opportunities for trash talk amongst players.
Bye. Oh, that's too bad. I feel bad for you. We've got 7 different game types. We've got some of the favorites like Capture the Flag, Destruction, and Team Destruction, which are always played, very, very frequently, probably the most played games. There's 7 different primary game types, and you can mix in a variety of different maps.
Conquest mode is this new feature that we've added to the game, which really sort of takes multiplayer to the next level. The ability for people to engage in multiplayer combat. What they do in multiplayer actually persists.
Red team steals a core.
And what other people do in multiplayer persists. People fight for territory and who's got this planet one night. It might change the next night.
Damn it, where'd you come from?
MechAssault 2 will also take full advantage of Xbox Live 3.0.
Xbox Live is just a wonderful and rich environment for us to develop multiplayer games. We're actually able to support where people can form clans, they can communicate. If you have a Passport account, the game can actually communicate all the way to your cell phone if you want.
Topping it all off is a soundtrack to match the destruction on the screen.
Got to get some licensed tracks in, which was really, really cool. And we got Papa Roach's Getting Away with Murder, and then Korn's coming out with their Greatest Hits album, and we got the song Right Now in there. Kind of put it in a really special place in the game to reward the players that play through the campaign.
After facing all the challenges of making a worthy sequel and pushing the Xbox to its limits, Day One Studios ships MechAssault 2 Lone Wolf in December 2004.
It's a mech game, it's also a tank game, and it's a VTOL game, a turret game, a battle armor game, powered armor suit game. It's got a lot of depth to it. It's definitely way more than your average sequel.
The mech fantasy, I think, is ultimately being the biggest kid on the playground with the biggest stick. You're going to get out there and people are going to listen and respect you because you've got the biggest stick and you're not afraid to use it. You are out there, you're a force to be reckoned with, and the city is definitely at your mercy. It's the ultimate sandbox for a kid who wants to stomp and shoot and destroy.
You know, I've personally been working on BattleTech games for a long time, and I've enjoyed it, and to be honest, we're not done yet. Ha ha! Bye!